about innovation. That's right, one word, one simple word we think about innovation. And what do you think about when you see the word or think about the word innovation? You know, perhaps you think about some great technologies or things that we all have, right? Maybe it's a smartphone in your pocket or your purse. Perhaps it's an electric car. Heck, it could even be that app that reminds you to drink water. There's lots of different innovations out there, right? And we think about these every day, and they're part of our lives. But if you think about it, where does innovation truly come from? Well, doesn't it come from an idea, right? Someone has an idea. You all have ideas. That's why you're here today. Everyone out there has ideas. Your employees have ideas. Customers have ideas. People you hang out with on the internet, they all have ideas, right? Innovation comes from ideas. It's pretty simple, isn't it? Now, all you have to do then is take that idea and you have someone to move it forward. And where do you go? The boardroom. That's right. The euphemism for big decisions are made, the boardroom, where the decision makers are. So what do you all do? You get your PowerPoint presentation ready, you're all geared up, and you go into that boardroom and you're pitching away. And what do they say? They say yes, don't they? No, they don't, do they? They say no. In fact, they have doubts, don't they? They poke holes in the ideas, and they say why it can't work. We've all been there, right? We've all been to this place, into those meetings. Why does this happen? What's taking place that makes this not possible or very challenging? Well, let's go back to the boardroom for a minute, shall we? Who is in the boardroom? Who are the decision makers in the boardroom? Now, in the company I work, I'm part of a boardroom. Many of you are probably decision makers in your company. Now, what are you? You're paid skeptics. Decision makers in companies are paid to be skeptics. Why? Because we are there to protect the company. We're not there to sign up for some wild, crazy idea. We're there to protect the company, make sure the heat and the lights stay on, make sure people get paid. This is the dichotomy that takes place in innovation. And what do we lack in those moments in that boardroom? We lack courage. We lack the courage and the ability for someone to stand up to say yes. Every great innovation, everything that you see out there comes back to one pivotal boardroom moment. That's right, a moment in time where groups of people decide the fate of whether an idea comes together or not. And in that moment, people need to choose courage over comfort. It's critical for people to think about that if you're going to advance your ideas. And ultimately, what are we all looking for? Someone to stand up to say, yes, let's do this, right? That's what we want in that boardroom. But it doesn't always happen, does it? And there are some very big consequences for those boardroom moments where it doesn't. Let me give you a couple examples. Okay, the first of these, Blockbuster, right? We've probably, many of you, some of you have heard of Blockbuster, right? They were the icon of renting videotapes and ultimately DVDs to people. And in the year 2000, Blockbuster was on top of the world. 8,000 stores, $5 billion in annual revenue, and they were the kings of delivering entertainment to your home. Well, guess what happened in the year 2000? They got pitched from a little old startup. That's right, Netflix showed up. That's right, Netflix was a startup, and they were mailing DVDs to people and had just started a subscription service where you didn't have late fees. Well, guess what? There was a boardroom moment. There was a boardroom moment where the two founders of Netflix pitched their idea to sell their company to Blockbuster to merge together for $50 million. Think about that. Blockbuster could have wrote that check that afternoon, but they didn't. In that boardroom moment, they chose comfort over courage. And in fact, the story goes, they actually laughed the two founders out of the boardroom. In the year 2011, Blockbuster went bankrupt. Today, Netflix generates over $50 billion a year of revenue. You don't think Blockbuster people aren't thinking about that one today? Here's another example. Kodak, the film company, iconic film company, cameras, old-fashioned cameras had film in them back in the day, and they had chemicals they used for that, and Kodak was the kings of this industry. Well, in the late 1990s and early 2000s, their scientists came up with this wild and crazy idea. They invented the first digital camera. Wow, it was something. So guess what took place? That's right, there was a boardroom moment. There was a boardroom moment where the Kodak internal folks, the scientists and marketers, pitched the idea of selling digital cameras in the marketplace. And in that moment, the Kodak executives chose comfort over courage. And they said no. They said it would erode their business. And in the year 2011, Kodak also filed for bankruptcy. And in fact, a little known fact is a lot of the digital photography today in smartphones comes from where? Kodak IP that they sold off in the bankruptcy. So what is this all about? It takes two things to advance innovation. It takes an idea and the courage to say yes. And that's the hard part of innovation. Everybody's got a great idea, but you better have someone in your corner that's willing to stand up to say yes. So how do we do this? Right? How do you figure all this out? Well, the first thing is, again, think about the boardroom and the people in there. You got to derisk things. Start small and test bold. Test your idea in the marketplace. Talk to customers before you walk in there and build the story. Because here is the most important thing you can do when you walk in that boardroom. When you tell that story, you had better make the unbelievable believable. You had better make all of those decision makers and skeptics believe in that idea, that something actually is possible, that what you were talking about, yes, can be done. Make the unbelievable believable when you walk into that boardroom. The other thing is, you'd better empower your people to make some decisions. I'm here to tell you, great innovation isn't done with a team and a committee deciding. Sorry. It takes a person. It takes an individual to stand up and to say, to take that chance. Someone has to take that chance. Someone has to sign up for it. And ultimately, when you're in front of those decision makers in that boardroom, someone has to believe. They have to have the evidence to believe why this is possible, why it's ground-changing, and why you should do it. That was the failure in those boardrooms, that someone didn't believe. And if you can do that, you can change the world. Think of the great brands and the great technologies we all use. There's many of them out there. They had great ideas, right? There was great ideas, but they had someone behind them, someone willing to stand up to take that chance, someone willing to believe. So we think about that word innovation, and you think about it in your own business, your own organizations. Yeah, the idea is one thing. The idea is important, but you better have the other element. You better have the belief in what you're doing and empowering the people to make those decisions. But also, it doesn't wait. It doesn't wait for the perfect time. And neither should you. It's time for all of us out here, if you want to advance the world, stand up, take a chance, and believe in something. Thank you.